Okay, so here we are in week one, and by this point, you have gone through and hopefully watched and replied to the first attendance post, and you're getting ready to do your first lecture. And then there'll be a different video for hands on and for current topics. Now, normally, and you will see this starting in week two, I'll have one video that covers that day's items. But in this case, because each item was a little more involved, that's what happened. So what'll happen here, and you've already hopefully experienced this, you've watched the video, which I haven't posted yet. You'll do a reply. Now, I actually say generally something I want you to reply with, showing me that you've watched it. But once you do that, okay, now there's a couple of things. If you go down to the bottom, that goes to the next item, like I've shown you before. But you can also see your status as far as how far you've moved through the modules by going back to the home. And now you can see, oh, these items are now available for you to work on, because the one thing I've changed this particular semester is I now reinforce moving sequentially. I always reinforced in the same way I set it up for you to do the process, but of completing all the items. But this semester, I even got a little more specific. All right, so here's your first lecture. So normally lectures are you follow along, take notes in some kind of way that I'm going to show you and help you set up today. So this is going to be two parts. This is your first part. And in your second part, you're actually going to do what is normally a lecture assignment where you take notes and in a particular kind of file called a markdown. But before we can get there, if you remember on your start here, I had you create that GitHub username and you submitted it to me. And when you do that, I invite that email that you used into our GitHub organization. Okay. So once you see that, then you can join. But if for some reason, and I've had this happen only a couple of times, in your email account, you do not see the invite, once I have invited you, you can just click on this URL. Notice it opens in a new tab. And if I just click on that, it'll take us right to the organization. Okay. Now, in this case, because I'm already logged in, you'll see it. But if the first time you get in here, you get some content showing you have to accept the invite, and once you do, you're there. Okay. So that's first step. So now what I want you to do, and I want you to follow my naming convention. So a naming convention is a way I want you to name, in this case, something called a repo. Now you can think of a repo for the beginning of this as just very almost, I wouldn't say identical, but very similar in the way that a folder, or some might call a directory, on your local drive. But in our case, a repo is something we're going to create out on GitHub. And later, we will bring a copy of that local, and you'll see how that works. But for this first part, we're only going to be working on the web. So going back to my naming convention. So first name plus first letter of your last name, plus, and this is a dash, plus private, and this is an or. More coding you'll see that this is an operator for or, private or public. So you're creating two repos, and this is the content I'm giving you here. So let me show you at this point how you do that. Now, again, what I'm assuming is that you've submitted the start here and you're ready to then work on the first week's assignments. Just, now that I'm thinking about that, just a word here. If for some reason you're one of those folks who is working late at night and you submit this late in the early evening, late night, just know I won't see it until the next day. So the sooner you submit this start here, the sooner you can work on this. So you can't, if you don't complete this, which by the way, it doesn't let you move on anyway. But if for some reason you don't give me the right name or whatever, just know that from the time you submit it, depending on when, there may be a little lag until I get your invite done. Okay, so let's come over here. So the other thing you can know is in past semesters, I had a different naming convention, very similar now, but I just made it shorter. And you'll see why. Well, you'll see me do it in a minute. So let's create this first one. Okay, so let's do the private one first. So let's come back over here. I'm going to do new. So when you look around, once you're in the course organization, it's just part of GitHub where we can do a little more private and some things more public, therefore the private and the public repos. So I'm going to hit new. And in new, it's going to ask me for the name. So Rio, first name, Waller, dash, PRI. Okay. So, and there's there's naming convention or great suggestions, but in this case, we're just going to go with my naming standard. Do lowercase, no space. This is a private repo. In a minute, we'll do the public one. I'm going to go ahead and add a README. We won't add a git ignore for now. This is something as you take more coding classes you'll do, and we'll just leave the licenses not selected, and we'll say create repository, or what we refer to as a repo. Okay, so that's my first private repo. Now let me just show you how you can tell based on looking at it. So here would be, like, as another student in this class, you wouldn't be able to see my PRI repo, but you would be able to see my public one. And this would be and now part of this, and maybe it's not showing up too well, is beside the private, you actually see private. And if you don't see private, it is public. So that's the first repo. So let's do the next one. This time, similar, Rio Waller dash PUB for public. And in this case, I actually have to choose public because by default, they are private. I'm going to add a README. This is something, a README markdown file you're going to learn about in a minute. And that's it. Really, that's all you have to do. So what you will see now, in addition to my public repo and another one I have out there, which I probably just need to delete, right? You will have two listed for yourself, one private and one public. Okay. So that's the first step of this. And I just clarify here to make sure you understand, when you're working in your private repo, it is between you and I. When you're working in your public repo, anyone in our organization and really anyone on the web can see it. All right, so this gets you through the first step. Now you're not ready to submit the assignment. I'm actually going to, as I said, leave this video for you to watch, and I talk about how to submit it in general. But I will tell you what you will end up doing, just to give you a little preview, is you will put this in your private. I will show you how to add a new file. In doing that, I will show you how to create a new directory as well. So we have what you've thought of as a folder, and then we're creating a subfolder called lectures inside of that. Okay, so I hope this video gives you an understanding of what you need to do for this step one. And now step two is watch this and take notes in your file that I specify. I show you in this video how to do. Talk to you later. Bye.